Yesterday morning, Trump announced he would order military troops to Portland. With today's podcast, I hope to show you how ridiculous that proposition is. While I normally welcome listeners to listen to this podcast as audio only, I'm going to be showing some videos that I took last night. I'd recommend watching this week's podcast on Substack or YouTube for the full effect. Welcome to the Retired Techie and PDX podcast. This is episode 5, and today is Sunday, September 28th.
The president writing on Truth Social this morning that at the request of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. I am also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Trump is calling Portland war-ravaged. I know most of you who are listening today live outside the Rip City, so I wanted to share some of my experiences during a walk last night after dinner. I left during daylight hours at about 6 p.m. to arrive at the ICE facility after sundown. What you'll see is anything but a war-ravaged place.
I will say this, I watched today, I didn't know that was continuing to go on, but Portland is unbelievable what's going on in Portland. The destruction of the city. Well, I'm going to look at it now because I didn't know that was still going on. This has been going on for years. So we'll be able to stop that very easily. We'll be able to stop. But you know, that was not on my list, Portland. But when I watched television last night, this has been going on. You wouldn't be standing if you were the mayor. You would be. Can you imagine what they're doing? They're walking in throwing smoke bombs into stores. These are paid terrorists, okay? These are paid agitators. These are professional. I watched that last night. I'm very good at this stuff. These are paid agitators. They get paid money by radical left groups, not radical right groups, radical left groups. And they get paid a lot of money. And you see it with the signs. You know, they all have perfect signs and are printed. They look as good as that sign. Those signs aren't made in basements. They're made at professional printing offices, and they cost a lot of money. These are paid agitators, and they're very dangerous for our country. And when we go there, if we go to Portland, we're going to wipe them out. They're going to be gone, and they're going to be gone fast. They won't even stand the fight. They will not stay there. They've ruined that city. I have people that used to live in Portland, they've left. Most of them have left. But what they've done to that place is it's like living in hell.
We certainly have our problems with both homelessness as well as a lack of overall life in the city. We also do have some protests outside the ICE facility. However, there isn't anything out of control, and there isn't violence by a so-called radical left. In fact, you'll hear me use the word peaceful a lot. I live in Northwest Portland. The ICE facility is in Southwest Portland. My total walk last night was 6.83 miles according to my Apple Watch. I did a loop, starting by walking south along the riverbank, turning around at the ICE facility, and then heading back home through downtown. The ICE facility is about 2 miles south of the downtown core in the South Waterfront neighborhood. As you can see, I walked out my front door at 5:50 p.m. Up here in the North Pearl District, it's quite peaceful. I live about 2 blocks from the West Bank Esplanade of the Willamette River. Up here, there were just a few people out enjoying the scenery. Portland is nice because the riverbanks are considered public, so even private property has throughways where pedestrians can walk and enjoy the river. After passing under the Broadway Bridge, the next bridge in front is the Steel Bridge. The Steel Bridge is where the railroad passes over the Willamette, and right around there are always homeless people. Those watching the video will notice the tent there on the right. Still, the people who camp here don't really bother anyone else, and the views are quite nice. Walking from Northwest Portland into downtown along the river is very peaceful. I filmed this last night, so crossing into downtown under the Burnside Bridge allowed me to catch the crews breaking down the outdoor Portland Saturday Market, which runs from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Also, just as I got downtown, I could start to see the bicycle rickshaws take mostly tourists up and down the Esplanade. Continuing my walk, I walked under the Morrison Bridge. Despite Portland being known for homelessness, the shelter underneath these waterfront bridges remain quite clean. Basically, people just like to use this path for walking and jogging. Even the Canadian geese like to enjoy the grass along the Esplanade. There's a cool fountain where people often like to gather. And walking further, you'll notice that it's clean underneath the Hawthorne Bridge too. Beyond that is a nice grassy area where events like the Blues Fest are held every year. People also gather outside by the water to eat out and stroll by the shops by the marina. It's very peaceful here too. One of my favorite dim sum places, Dozone, is also down here. Continuing down the riverbank, we pass underneath I-5, and it's safe here too. I appreciate the skyline at the Tillicum Bridge, which is a transit and pedestrian bridge, and I appreciate it at dusk. We have quite an extensive transfer station here, as we have excellent public transit here in the Portland metro area. Unfortunately, it's underutilized. The ICE facility is located in the South Waterfront neighborhood. It's very peaceful here too. And here in South Waterfront is a park called Carruthers Park. This is the gathering place after peaceful marches by the ICE facility. Today, there was a peaceful march that started at 4 p.m., and here's the group as the event was wrapping up. You can see these are ordinary people, not violent members of any far-left radical group. And between this gathering and the ICE facility, I walked down the street. Again, it remained very peaceful. Once I got to the ICE facility, I saw a very small group of perhaps a couple dozen people set up there with coolers for water and food so they could stay longer term. And again, alongside these protesters were just ordinary people. There's one guy who basically had a speaker strapped around his shoulder playing rap music for effect. But people were basically just standing around trying to take pictures. Then the ICE facility was threatening arrests over the loudspeaker.
Stay out of the area of the driveway to allow for vehicular traffic. Remain on the sidewalk or across the street. Anyone to include the press trespassing on federal property is subject to arrest.
And then after that, they sent their officers out, and then everyone started filming. Nothing broke out, and there ultimately became more interest in the helicopters that were also flying overhead, probably trying to also capture footage. People driving by were also there to ensure that the ICE officers didn't misbehave. And then I started my walk home. Again, it was very peaceful throughout the whole South Waterfront neighborhood. And again, even under the highways, you'll notice everything is well lit and clean, very safe. The pedestrian footpaths into downtown are also very clean and well lit. You can see how even the main streets are also very peaceful. I walked up through downtown at night, and you can see it was very safe. People aren't afraid to walk alone around here. Public transit still runs, and there aren't any scary characters. And the whole downtown is clean, well lit, and not scary at all. Perhaps even a little too dead. On a Saturday night, the Pioneer Square area has people in it, but not many. It is very peaceful. The irony is that juxtaposed against the Apple Store, owned by a company worth several $1 trillion, is a hungry person who just dug through the garbage for food. Here I was standing right in the center of Pioneer Square, basically by myself, just right outside the Nordstrom. And when I walked in front of the Nordstrom, I could see it was well protected by security guards in the front. From there, I started getting back into my neighborhood. I passed by the Ritz-Carlton, the Living Room Theaters, and then locations familiar to tourists. Powell's Books, a popular brick-and-mortar bookstore, always has people and some live percussion performances going on. And going through the Pearl District, there's always life. For example, one of my favorites, Pip's Donuts, was running a pop-up and people were gathered around. Life of Riley is a popular dive bar that also often has people around. Otherwise, it was just people walking their dogs. So, of course, here in Portland, we do have our issues. While some disabled people seem quite functional, we have others who sleep in their wheelchairs when the sun goes down. We do have people who sleep on park benches. So we do have problems, and we could use federal assistance. Instead of spending money sending in troops, how about sending in more social workers and people to do outreach? Either way, you can see that I live in a very beautiful and very safe city. This is not a living hell. It is not war ravaged. The city has it under control. If the federal government wants to stop ICE protests, they can simply stop doing bad things, like arresting and detaining people on their way to immigration hearings, doing what they're supposed to be doing. It is disappointing to me that the Trump administration and social media are trying to use footage from a half-decade ago to try to justify the use of American taxpayer dollars on military troops in our city. If they spent less on military troops and on ICE, and they focused their attention on issues that could stimulate our economy or provide social assistance, I think our local leaders would welcome it. With this video, I hope to catch just my reflections over a 3-hour period on a Saturday night on an evening walk. I hope this helps to dispel the propaganda being served up by social media and the Trump administration. See you next week.